And, I guess if you sit there and ask a question and it's scanning all the different songs it's playing, the announcers, commercials, they're going to hear what they want to hear out of that. I mean, but I don't think a ghost is talking through it.
Well, and that's the problem is, so some of my background with paranormal is I do get into some of the ghost boxes and some of the apps, but the problem is like you said, it's scanning through radio frequency. So, you're gonna get something where all of a sudden the radio station might be saying hello or good morning, but too many people are too quick to say, yeah, that was a response by a ghost.
Yeah.
I've had some experiences where there's been maybe a response that has come out of one where it's maybe said something very personal to me, whereas I've been asking for maybe a nickname that a family member has called me, and it's not a very common nickname, and it comes through. I don't say that that's paranormal, but I say that definitely is something that is intriguing.
Well, it'd make my hair stand up on my neck.
Yeah. And
well, you know what?
But the problem that yeah.
What I've asked some of these ghost hunters, okay, what does the average person, especially going back 20, 30, 40 years ago or more, what did the average person do? They smoked, right? So if you're in an old prison or you're in a mental institution or you're walking through a cemetery at night, one of the questions I've asked all of them, do you ever ask, like, you want a cigarette? And they go, I never thought about that. Yeah. That was one of the very first things I would think in my mind, if I'm doing, looking for anything in the old prison or whatever, I'm going to say, hey, does anybody want a cigarette? Because, undoubtedly, I mean, that they smoked. I mean, that's part of their life they had, and probably about the only life they had. You would think, okay, somebody's going to go, yeah, give me a cigarette. But no, that never happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's tough, and that's why honestly, like, I watch these shows and I hear people talking about how their evidence is just groundbreaking, and unfortunate, that's why it's paranormal and it's unknown, because we really don't have any answers. I mean, like I said, I can go to a cemetery and I've had some instances where I guess I've left the cemetery thinking I may have made contact with something, because, I've gotten some names that are very close to me, or I've gotten names of, on graves right next to me, where I'm looking at a grave and I'm saying, name the person that I'm looking at, and a name comes through, but I still will never sit and say that was a ghost talking to me, because there's always that chance that, like we talked about, especially a ghost box, maybe that name came through on the radio and it was just all happened by chance.
Yeah, but if it happens, more than once, I mean, let's say, I used to listen to like old Art Bell shows, and there was this one lady and a guy that they would go to all these different cemeteries, and they would always seem to have, voices from, the deceased, little kids, women, all kinds of things, saying, where's mommy? Or, have you seen daddy? Or things like that. And they had a lot of them. And, so that's kind of hard to explain, how it's getting picked up. So I'm not ruling it out. I mean, what I rule it out is when somebody, I hate to say it, I watched one person one time, they wanted something so bad that they heard it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the problem, is you can make yourself think you heard your name, hello, or, if you're going somewhere searching and you need an answer, you're going to walk away with it, because you'll convince yourself that you're getting responses.
Oh, yeah. So you guys are going to be looking for guests. I will let you guys know some places where you can actually find some good quality guests for your show, both in conspiracy and in paranormal. And like I was mentioning, I'm more than happy, to turn you on. I was telling Richard to some people too.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Like I said, it's we don't really try to go around asking for help or anything, and we're just trying to have fun and get connected with good people, have good guests on, and just the time that I've been talking with you, I just I really appreciate everything that some of the advice you've been giving us, and especially just having us on tonight. It's a pleasure being on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely was. Like you said, Rick was saying, give us some good advice, things we can look forward to, things we can look at, how we can touch on it. Definitely appreciate the shout outs and the plugs and all that good stuff, and the leads for some good guests. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, I will do whatever I can for some people out there, and then there's other ones I look at, and I don't like drama. So, I mean, if somebody's out there creating drama over their show, I don't even listen to it. It's one thing, being an acquaintance of Art Bell, he told me a lot of things. I'm not going to go into it, but, I really opened my eyes, to the paranormal. Again, like running into a Bigfoot back in the early 2000s, really, and plus a couple other things in my life. I'm 66 years old, so there's been a couple things I've seen that have been unexplainable. But once it actually happens to you, you realize there's things out there that, how do you explain it? You can't.
Yeah, exactly. And, and that's what makes the conversation so fun is you're a lot of time with me and Bobby, our show, we don't come to a conclusion at the end because we don't know. But that's what makes it fun is getting a group of people together, discussing things that are unknown, and opening your mind to things. You got to open your mind to things. You can't just be so one-sided on things.
Well, if you are,
I'm definitely one-sided when it comes to flat Earth, though. Yeah.
Oh, flat. I actually, I have a guest that's coming on the show on flat Earth, and he's going to have to do a lot of convincing to me. But talking to him on the phone back about a month ago, I said, okay, if the Earth is flat, where does the oceans run off to? And he hesitated, and he says, well, the way, the Earth is spinning, even being flat, it keeps the oceans there. But I said, wouldn't it kind of like slop over? And, just little weird questions I'd ask him, and he didn't have any answers. Or I have another guest that's coming on who insists that they're in the middle of the Earth. There's another sun, there's an ocean, and there are, aliens running around in the middle of the Earth. He's going to be on the show, so he's going to have to do some convincing to me, to. Well,
technically, there is a sun in the middle of the Earth. The molten iron and molten rock that's there is a lot of sunlight material. So you can make that excuse.
Yeah, but how about the big ocean in the center? The center Earth isn't that big. When you really figure out the size of the Earth, and then you start shrinking it down to the middle of the Earth, and then you have the molten lava or the molten whatever, right? And now, how are you going to have basically a sun in the air, up above you, and then have a big, huge ocetion, and all these huge caves. I just don't know how that can happen. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I could be.
I guess you're gonna find out.
That's too many. You know what? I can't even say on that one. That's a tough one for me too, as well.
Well,
a lot of Journey to the Center of the Earth episodes when he was a kid, probably.
Yeah,
out there.
Yeah, what's that one that was with the German submarine that captured these British sailors, and they went to an island, and there was prehistoric animals and all that stuff. They probably watched too many.
Oh yeah.
Probably watched too many of those. In Center of the Earth with Pat Boone and a bunch of other people. I guess maybe he watched too many. I don't know, but maybe there is, huge cave system where they could be aliens. I don't know. I sure don't want to find out. I mean.
But that's what we'll come to the table to talk about, and that's why we're out here to talk about it and have a good time with it. So,
well, that's the whole point. You get your audience out there, right? Even if they don't agree with what you say or your guest says, I mean, it's entertainment. And that's what I tell everybody. My show is entertainment. You take it for what it is. I don't guarantee it's accurate. It's just entertainment. Now, I try to bring on the best people I can in the paranormal, and it's up to you, the listener, to believe it or not. Okay, if the guest made a big enough and good enough case that to prove it's real or not. I mean, God gave us a brain for a reason.
Yeah, that's true. And and with the entertainment, that's what's fun about it is, like you said earlier, people are coming home from a long day's work. They want to have a drink and listen to something fun. And what better way to challenge, your mind and get that dialogue going of, even something like that. Is there a sun in the center of the earth? It's something that's going to bring topic. It's going to bring debate. And, you may look crazy, but hey, it's entertainment.
Well, that's the whole point. That's the whole point of talk
bring
radio.
Some facts. That's all I got to say. Bring some facts.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this: when we were talking about conspiracies and all this stuff, my son, Kevin, back about 6 months ago, he was reading an article about South and North Korea, and that the supreme leader of North Korea, basically, my son made a little wise joke, right? And said, hey, the supreme leader of North Korea stepped out of the closet. Now, I can look on my server, okay? Not so much on some of the other apps, because some of the other apps don't break it down as much as what my server tells me where, people are listening, it tells me exactly where they're listening from. And, I've never had anybody ever listen from North Korea on my show, and all of a sudden it said government North Korea the next morning when I did my printout of the show. Then I go, okay, wow, we must have used some of the key words, because if we have it in our country, right, you say keywords, you get recorded, right? They must have their little spy system on the internet. So then a couple weeks later, Kevin brought it up again, and sure enough, the next morning, guess what? Somebody from North Korea was listening to the show.
Wow.
Yeah, North Korea's got I actually read something just the other day. It's funny you bring that up. Talking about Facebook stuff coming up, when you're thinking about it. I just read an article the other day about how North Korea is putting a lot of effort into their cyber cracking and cyber warfare, aspect of their country, more so than even the nuclear bombs, because they realize that that's obviously where the future is and where everything's at. And they are very far along and doing a lot of dangerous things with what they're doing with IT right now.
Oh, just like I was mentioning to Richard, about the FBI and Homeland Security out on the news late last night and today, telling people, shut your server off. your router off as soon as possible, recycle it and start it and do it a couple times a week, because they pinpointed it to coming out of Russia. But, I mean, there's a major virus that's uploaded a major amount of routers in this country, and it's hitting more and more every hour. And they know who you're contacting. They know, your bank information. They know everything. And what's really bad about it, if they want to destroy your computer, they can destroy it, too. This from, your router.
No. Here's the secret, though. But here's the secret of all of this, though. And even the government has a hard time cracking it. You can get a VPN. You get some encryption. You're about 80% there. You make it just about impossible for them to track you, and pretty much finding out who you are for the most part. It's a lot harder to do that as it is.
Well, the problem.
Yes, there's backdoors. Yes, there is things with that. But when it comes down to it, a VPN does do a lot for you.
Yeah, but it's also come out in the last week or so that there's some major backdoors where they can just walk right in and see exactly what you've been doesn't you think you've been sending out all these private emails, right, to your girlfriend when you're married, right? And then all of a sudden, you're being blackmailed because they managed to go through the back door and they got all the information. I mean, of everything